Welcome all. It's draft night again on Primetime Mock, the show where we bring you a different industry draft with guests from all over the fantasy community every single week. I'm the host of this draft party, Mark Shue. You could find me on Twitter at Primetime Mock. And don't forget to head on over to YouTube if you're not there already and subscribe to our channel. We've got a great show for you tonight, guys. It's been a great week for me. I took my daughter to Hershey Park yesterday, and we had a really great time. We're a big roller coaster and theme park family, so we were really happy to get my 2-year-old out there, and we took her on the log flume, which was a lot of fun there. And today I ended up pulling the trigger this week, but for Father's Day, and got myself a Rec Tech grill, so I'm really excited to smoke my first pork butt here sometime soon. Guys, we have a great show for you tonight. We've got a tight end draft, and let's get right into it with our first pick from a good football show, Living the Stream and NBC Sports Edge, but most importantly, he's willing to climb the meat mountain from time to time. It's Denny Carter. Denny, what's going on?
And that's not a metaphor, by the way, climbing the meat mountain. Things are good. Yeah, I guess I have the easiest job here, picking first in a tight end draft, where I believe I would be kicked out of the United States if I did not take Travis Kelce, and rightfully so. So I will go ahead and take the consensus number one tight end off the board.
I love it. I love it, Denny. All right, next up from I-80 Sports Media, it's Bob Ventimiglia. What's going on, Bob?
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me.
Did I get the last name right, Bob?
Yeah, it's as close as we're going to get. Yeah.
Good.
It's genetic, just like it's spelled. There's an Italian pronunciation, but when my family came over, then no one uses it.
I got you. No problem. No problem. I'm a voice teacher, so I have to go through all that diction,
all those diction courses,
and through college. Yeah, through college, I was learning all that GLI, that whatever. I don't even know how to pronounce it anymore.
It's great because you actually enunciate when you talk, so it was all worthwhile.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. If anything, a voice degree got me a big mouth. So look out for that, I guess. All right, next up, he's from Fantasy Intervention, Dynasty Happy Hour. We've got Chase Vernon. Chase, what's going on, man?
What's going on, guys? How are we doing tonight? Dude, I'm ready to rock and roll. I'm ready to get this draft started. I'm excited. Thank you for bringing me in. I can't wait to get this thing rolling.
We love having you, Chase. Thank you so much. Hey, can you give me a few seconds on SomeYards?
Yeah, of course. So I started up this thing last year with COVID happening, and kids with special needs, they actually have trouble developing, especially in the social area of things with, other kids if they're not constantly interacting. Well, with COVID happening, there wasn't really a way for anybody to get in contact with anybody, especially with the schools. There's no camps. There's nothing going on. So I started to get together, and actually Chris was part of the league with one of his buddies.
I believe I won, Chase. Not to rub that in, but I believe me and Jonathan won that league. Go ahead.
Yeah. So we actually we teach kids with special needs how to play fantasy football, and I spend about an hour with them every Monday, just going over what happened over the weekend, what's going to happen, that night, and what's going to happen over the course of the week with waiver wire pickups, with ad drops, everything like that. So I spend about an hour every Monday just teaching them and going through it. So we're going to start again this year because I had so much fun with it last year. Hopefully it's a little bit bigger than what it was, and we can get more kids interacting. So if y'all want to reach out, you guys can visit at SomeYards over there on Twitter. I could always use help on the promotional side. I could always use help on the, teaching the kids side of things. And then, of course, if you have a child or know somebody that has a child that might be interested, age range could be anywhere from, I think our youngest was like 7 up to, 15, 16, 17 years old or so.
That's amazing, Chase. I love that.
It was fun. I loved it.
All right, next up, from Dynasty Pros, Fantasy in Frames, and the Dynasty Fever podcast, it's Brian Ford. Brian, what's going on, man?
Hey, how we doing, folks? Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Happy to have you. I think you were, when I started up back in March, I think you were one of the first people to join my mock drafts. That's how I got started, just sending out mock drafts to anyone who will take them. And Brian was happy enough to just find some stranger's mock and jump in. I always appreciate that. I remember you, Brian. Don't forget. Don't forget.
No, yeah, I remember when you first started. Yeah, I did some early ones. Yep.
Yeah. All right. Next up, from Full Tilt Dynasty podcast, and he does graphics for Fantasy Intervention and the Dynasty Vipers, it's Thomas Tipple. Tom.
Man, happy to be here, man. What a room. what a room to be in with everyone here. Just a real fun journey in these tight end draftings. It's going to be interesting.
That's
Let's
right.
Let's see if I can pull something off here.
I hope you can.
Is it okay to draft Thad Moss 4 times? Can I do that and just hope that it comes to fruition?
I don't think it lets you, but we can talk to Sleeper about that. I
in
do,
my heart.
In your heart.
Just know in my heart that's what I'm picking 4 times.
All right. Next up from the Dynasty Pros, from DynastyProsFootball.com. He's the fantasy ladder on Twitter. It's Steve. Steve, what's going on?
Nothing much. I'm beyond excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely happy to have you. Always happy to have you. And I just found out that we're pretty close there, Steve.
That's right. Yeah, I saw you're at Hershey Park the other day, so I'm enjoying a Trobe's beer out of Hershey. So hopefully
The
stop
Mecca.
there. Oh, that's right. Yeah. So if you haven't, you should. So
Get that Mad Elf, right?
absolutely around Christmas time. Absolutely.
Up here in Allentown, they have a brew works, it's called, and they make their own Mad Elf. They call it Root Elf. It's pretty good, but it's not the same, right? That's not quite the same. I'm still driving down and forcing my money into that cashier's hand down at Tro's.
Yep.
All right, next up, and he's back again. From the Dynasty Rewind podcast and Big Guy Fantasy Sports.com, it's Phil Simmons. Phil, what's going on?
Not much, man. I'm just blessed to be back again. Had fun last week, so I was like, why the hell not come back again this week? Do some little tight ends. I figured this one would be a shorter one because it's kind of hard to do 10 rounds of tight ends. That would be quite brutal. But hey,
Thomas has a
glad-
workout.
Yeah. Hey, speak for yourself, man. Come on, let's go 10 rounds. Let's do it.
Yeah, okay. I'm glad to be chilling with Chase again. Me and Chase did a couple pods before, so I'm happy to meet the new guys and Detroit BC as well. Happy to see you again.
Earlier today, this was a 48 pick draft instead of a 40 pick draft, and I thought we must really hate ourselves if we're going to 48 picks. So we brought it down to 40. I still had to exhaust this position. I like to exhaust all these positions when I do these, but we're gonna have a lot of fun tonight. And I missed one from the from Undroppables.com. It's Chris Robin. Chris, what's going on?
Nothing. Thanks for having me. Shout out to Chase. I mean, I'm in behavioral therapy. I coach Special Olympics, and Jonathan, one of my main guys, he loved that league. I mean, we drafted Kenny, got everybody from Detroit we had on his team. So thank you for Chase for that fantastic initiative. Special needs, they need to do fun stuff, have, interactions and things like that. So thank you for that. And I'm glad to be here. This is fantastic. Dare I say, I've never seen Denny in person, but early nomination for best hair in the business, right?
It's tough competition. There are a lot of guys with fantastic hair. I mean, I'm 37 years old. You look at some of these guys, in their early 20s, just unbelievable heads of hair. So I appreciate it, though. Maybe age adjusted hair.
Age adjusted best hair in the business. Sure.
Thank you.
Dude, I just like Jason's comment in the chat. Jason over there saying Mel Kiper would kill for it.
Well, Mel Kiper's like 85 years old. No, I'm kidding. We all love Mel Kiper.
Chase, make your pick for me real quick, bud.
Oh, my bad.
No worries.
You even warned me. You even
No problem. I know it's all right. No worries. We make a couple mistakes here. We're 8 shows in, so we make mistakes. We own them on this show. We're happy to own any mistakes that come by.
Ooh.
We'll pick them up and we'll learn them.
Hawkinson third. Huh?
Let's take a look at this draft happening right now. From the beginning, we started with Travis Kelce to Denny, Darren Waller to Bob, and then Chase took TJ Hopkinson. Chase, go ahead and talk to me about TJ there.
It's interesting, man. This is completely uncharted waters. Like we're seeing somebody. I think the closest thing to this at a third tight end leading their team, possibly in receptions, is going to be like Tony Gonzalez back in 1998, I believe, 1999. I mean, there's no other receivers on this team like DeAndre Swift they can use out of the backfield. Amon-Ra St. Brown, yeah, he could command a few targets, but not too many over the top. It's just going to be something where he could end up seeing north of 120, 130 targets pretty easily. And he was actually overly efficient with his targets last year. Last year, his targets, I think he was like 14th in target accuracy rating. And so, and looking at it, like he got targets, but they just weren't open. Now you have Anthony Lynn coming to this offense, and he likes to design his tight ends to and actually get yards after the catch. Meanwhile, last year wasn't the case. So now you have just the combination of tight end offensive coordinator coming together. You have Jared Goff, who, yeah, he's not Matt Stafford, but he still likes to look at the tight end, especially in the red zone. I mean, there's just tremendous amount of upside with TJ Hawkinson. Moving forward, I think he gets smashed. He's actually, one of my favorite tight ends, probably my favorite tight end in Dynasty. I do like Kittle. Injury history worries me. Darren Waller's getting up there in age. I think that TJ Hawkinson, overall, whether it's redraft or this should be a top 3 tight end.
Anybody want to defend George Kittle for a second?
Well, I was going to say that the prospect of Trey Lance starting a lot of games, who knows how many, kind of freaks me out a little bit with Kittle at his ADP. Same with Brandon Ayuk. Not so much Debo, because I think he's more quarterback proof in the way he's used. But paying that high price for Kittle in an offense that could become as run heavy as any team in the league. Once Trey Lance takes control of that offense, I mean, Kittle could be great, and Kittle is great. He's going to make a lot of plays. He's going to dominate yards after the catch, everything he usually does. But if the volume is not there, I do think that he will suffer for that. And at his ADP, I'm completely out on him for redraft purposes.
Mm-hmm. I've actually got to say, as far as Kittle is concerned, the way he plays is great to watch, but it does worry me a bit. He does a ton of blocking. He doesn't run as many routes as you want him to. And when he's blocking like that, he's out there and he treats it like it's the WWF. But right. The thing is, the WWF's not real. So this is real. He's taking big hits, and every week I do get a little worried that some weeks it might not work out for him.
Just quick question: is Bob drafting, and did he mean to take Robert Tonyan? Because I don't want to go if that's the case.
I did mean to take Robert Tonyan there, yes.
Okay, cool. Just wanted to make sure.
I have him ranked 7th. I know his ADP is 16. It's my biggest reach, but that's my guy, and I want him.
Cool.
Plus, I already have Darren Waller, so I mean,
so it's over.
Second tight end.
Game over.
Playing with the house's money.
That's right. Guys, I want to go back and talk a little bit about drafting a tight end in fantasy football. We have this first tier. I like to always think in tiers. I would say that Kelsey, Waller, Hawkinson, Kittle are pretty strong first 4 for a lot of people. Does anybody have anybody outside of that in their top tier?
I mean,
wow. I have Pitts ranked at 4. I just think he's just gonna get so many targets. It's gonna be hard for him to fail unless he is just bad. I mean, for the tight end position being what it is, he's worth taking a shot at for sure, in my opinion.
I like Pitts at 4. Honestly, I think there's an argument for because of what I just said about Kittle. I think there's an argument for Pitts over Kittle.
Oh yeah.
Are we talking redraft here, or are we talking Dynasty?
I'm sorry, redraft.
Oh yeah, for sure redraft. I don't want to. Yeah, Pitts is my tight end 1 in Dynasty, so I'm just gonna breeze right over that, and I like him at 4 in redraft.
There we go. Okay, I like that, especially with the Julio trade. It feels like there's a lot more opportunity for him now.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see. We talked about that first tier. I actually think Kelsey's probably in a tier by himself, but just to make it interesting, I guess we'll throw those next 3 or 4. We can throw Pitts in there as well. And then after that, we sort of get into this section of tight ends, and it happens every single year where we're not quite sure. We think that they could be a group that will jump up to the next level, and then most of them just end up in the dumpster fire that is the tight end stream. Do we have any favorites here? Brian, I see you took Mark Andrews there at 105. Where do you sort of have him? Do you have him in that upper tier, or do you sort of bring him back down to that stream rating?
So I think in the past, you could argue that he was could belong in the top 4 and Hawkinson not. But I think this year they're moving in different directions. I think Chase made the case for Hawkinson really well. Andrews to me is a safe pick there. I do think that if the rumblings are true that they're going to throw more to the wide receivers with Bateman and Wallace that they drafted, then Andrews' target share might decrease a bit this year. I took him ahead of Pitts because it sounds like there's a lot of Pitts love here tonight. He's a rookie. He's a rookie tight end. And as much as he's generational and a freak of nature and all that, until he puts a season together, until he plays a snap, I can't put him ahead of Hawkinson or Andrews.
Denny, why don't you talk to me a little bit about why you feel more comfortable with Pitts in that role?
Yeah, I wrote a fantasy preview piece for NBC Sports Edge the other day, focused on the Falcons offense. And I think post Julio trade, Pitts just falls into a lot of opportunity, and there's good reason to believe, according to how he's been used so far in off-season practices, and I guess we'll see if this carries over into training camp, that he's not going to be used as a traditional tight end, and nor should he, and he really wasn't in college, and I think we'll continue to see that in the NFL. So I'm very bullish on his target share in that offense. And honestly, I know we're not putting Hayden Hurst in this conversation, but that offense should put Hayden Hurst on the field enough for him to be relevant, maybe in tight end premium leagues or deeper leagues at least. I really love the way that Arthur Smith uses the tight end in his offense.
Sure. And a couple things that about Pitts, just to pile on here. He is the highest drafted tight end in the history of the NFL. He's the first time that the first skill position to come off the board was a tight end. That's the first time that's ever happened. His what am I trying to say? His tight ends coach in Florida also was the tight ends coach for Antonio Gates in Los Angeles. And there's a piece a few months back, I can't remember who wrote it, but did an interview with him and had said that he believes that he's the best tight end prospect he's ever worked with. So I think if you do have some trepidation about Pitts, it really can only be that he's a rookie and he needs to get himself acclimated to the league. But if he's in your dynasty league, I had him up in my top 2 skill positions. I had him right behind right behind Najee Harris rather. I think that he's going to be a star.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is the risk with redraft is I think he might be a little too high for me, but there's always, if you in those middle rounds, that running back dead zone, if you have your receivers locked up, why not take a shot on them?
Mm-hmm.
All right, and we're getting ourselves out of that tier. Let's just go over the first round. We had Travis Kelce, Darren Waller, TJ Hawkinson, George Kittle, Mark Andrews, Kyle Pitts, and then Tom, you went with Noah Fant, and Phil with Dallas Goedert. Let's get a few seconds on these two.
I'll let him go first. Yeah.
Oh, thanks, man. I think Noah Fant is a freak athlete, and I don't think there's any way Drew Lock can be much worse. I mean, they had the game. A couple injuries seems to be his thing. But when I'm taking a tight end, if I miss out on those top guys, it's also why I took Everett in the next round. I want the top tier athletes that can put up touchdowns without great quarterback play because they can just take over themselves. I mean, Everett's an athlete. He obviously has a good quarterback, but Fant can catch a short ball and take it himself. I mean, we've already seen it. He can break tackles. I don't think he needs to have the high catch volume. He can just make big plays. So if I'm missing out on those safe guys, I'm going to try to hit a home run later in a redraft, and I think Fant is one of the guys that let you do that.
All right, Phil, give me Dallas Goedert.
Yeah, I mean, with Dallas Goedert, for right now, believe they're working on an extension for him, so he's going to be the future, obviously. Zach Ertz is going to be gone, which is going to open up a lot of stuff for him. And let's be real, their receiving core isn't really the best. So it's just Devontae Smith, and I don't know how people feel about Jalen Reagor or anybody else on there. So it's pretty much Smith and Goddard. Goddard is a really good blocker, and I kind of like to equate blocking with fantasy because that means that you stay on the field. And also, you also have Jalen Hurts who scrambles the ball. He scrambles a lot. So, you can have one of those, Madden type plays where Dallas Goedert will get open. And he has the athleticism to get down the field as well. And he has really good hands. So I like to see how that goes. I think it's just more like an upside thing for me. I know we haven't seen it consistently because he has been hurt. But I want to see. I think he can do the job correctly when he gets that full allotment of targets with Ertz going.
Yeah, he's the Eagles' skill position outside of maybe Miles Sanders if it falls the right way in a draft. Goddard's the one that I'm kind of most comfortable betting on at this point right now. He's got the pedigree there as the tight end. I think that Zach Ertz is probably going to be out the door at some point here. Those off-season trade rumors are like they're like an engagement to your wedding day. That is, you're getting cut. So I kind of feel like if they don't make a trade for Ertz, he's probably gone another way. And he'll wind up somewhere, maybe with Wentz or something like that. But yeah, I think that Goddard's the guy that I would be most confident in that tier. Yep, that's right. And I think we're starting to make our way through the back of the tier. This second round here, we had Logan Thomas go off the board to Denny, Robert Tonyan. Bob talked about him a few minutes ago. Irv Smith went to Chase, Mike Gesicki to Chris, Cole Kmet to Brian, Hunter Henry to Steve, Gerald Everett to Tom, and Jonathan Smith to Phil. Let's talk about this first half here. Logan Thomas, Robert Tonyan, Irv Smith. What do we think about these guys? Who wants to go first here?
I'll take this one away if you don't mind, because I think I had the spiciest pick of the bunch.
Absolutely.
I think Robert Tonyan is actually really safe there. So I stat out every player, and what I have is Robert Tonyan. Hold on, if I could pull him up. About 80 targets, 64 receptions, 768 yards, and 9 touchdowns. And that kind of has him in that range. If I pull up my rankings, I guess that would leave him at tight end. I have him at tight end 7. His ADP is tight end 16. But what I did was I kind of looked at his statistical averages for yards per reception and, touchdowns. He had 11 last year. I don't think it's going to be that high. So let's lower him a little bit. And I wanted him lower, and I tried to wiggle the targets in the numbers, and it just wasn't happening in the numbers. And when you have to fight the numbers that hard, I just take a step back and say, okay, that's where he belongs, I guess.
I guess the real question is, are you a Rodgers is playing or a Rodgers is leaving? Which side of that coin are you on? And that's sort of
I'm not sure his particular value drops that much if he's gone.
With Jordan Love or with...
Yeah, I mean, Jordan Love can't throw further than a tight end can run, so I guess that's kind of a nice, settling in. I'm joking, of course, but yeah, I think that's a nice check down situation. I like Tonyan where he is, and it doesn't matter much to me.
Sure. I mean, we're getting late here in tight ends, right? And at this point, for me, my strategy in tight end, as we get to these Robert Tonyans and Logan Thomases, I'm more thinking about what rounds should I be taking a tight end? Can I fill up my other positions? Because I'm obviously not taking the top tier. And at that point, it's just like, who's there? Hey, who's there in round 9 or round 10 or round 12 or whenever it ends up working out for me.
I think it's Jeff Ratcliffe who says, go 3 for 30 and you had a good tight end day. Tanyan can get 3 for 30 and he has the most touchdown upside. So that's, on any given week, 7 weeks, 8 weeks out of the season, he's going to be there for you.
Chase, make your pick, bud.
So I tried to make the pick. It's not like it's just coming up as like a blank screen, but I was going to grab Jarwin. He's queued up too, so I don't know why.
Oh, that's weird. Okay, hold on.
It's like not coming up with an option to draft him.
It's a sign, Chase. It's a sign, buddy.
But yeah, no. Anyways, sitting there and looking at it, I actually do like Robert Tonyan a lot right there. In that little first group, the biggest concern for me is Logan Thomas, who Denny took over there. It's just, Greg Olsen always played in the slot, and last year I believe the biggest percentage of for a tight end was Thomas. And they go out, they add Deami, Adam Humphries, of course, slot on the back end, Curtis Samuel, who hopefully plays in the slot, not as a deep threat because he does not work as a deep threat. It's interesting to see whether Logan Thomas will line up at a wide receiver position or more often at tight end this upcoming year. I love Logan Thomas. I was huge on him in the preseason last year prior to the season started, in the offseason mainly. I had him in almost every single redraft league that I have in a bunch of Dynasty, but I'm very concerned about his usage moving forward because Scott Turner loves to use beavers in that role. I just don't know how often he's going to play it with having 3 other legitimate receivers on the field.
That's fair. Yeah, I mean, I guess I look to his, and not only his, but every Washington pass catcher's upgrade at quarterback. I mean, really, Washington pass catchers had to deal with the worst quarterback situation in the league last year, and it probably wasn't close with the combination of Dwayne Haskins and Alex Smith. And Alex Smith was just horrific for everybody in that offense. Total nightmare. I'm thinking that everybody will benefit from a more functional quarterback playing. And honestly, I don't even mean Fitzpatrick. I mean, Fitzpatrick's fine. I guess he's probably going to start the season. But even Taylor Heineke would be an upgrade, I think, as we saw late last season. So it's Logan Thomas ran the most, I believe, the most routes of any tight end in the league, and it wasn't close. That's not going to happen again this year. So he's going to have to be way, way more efficient. But I think that the upgrade at quarterback can help him do that.
Makes sense. Yeah, and I love Irv Smith Jr. at this point. I would have taken Irv Smith Jr. over Goddard, possibly over Fant. So him falling to me was a dream. I mean, Chase, I don't think that.
Does it worry you that Zimmer said his role is not going to increase, or is that just something you just dismiss as offseason coach speak?
So Tyler Conklin actually did out-target Irv Smith in the games that Kyle missed. So it definitely isn't. But at this point, you're kind of playing darts with the tight end to an extent, and the upside from Irv Smith Jr. is just immense. Like, if Irv Smith Jr., hypothetically, and you should ever count vacated targets in the sense, like it should not be but the fantasy points per target that was through the roof. And if he would have taken over for Kyle Rudolph, he got all the targets, which would not happen. But if he did, he would have been tight end 3 on the season. And all it was, I think, 37 extra targets or something like that. So, like Irv Smith Jr., he just does wonderful things when he gets the ball in his hands. He just needs that opportunity. With Gary Kubiak, calling the plays, they use a little bit more play action fake from the done. I didn't do it toward the season, so I'm missing a few weeks in there. But either way, I mean, Irv Smith Jr. is going to be a monster. And if he can get more red zone targets, I think that he's going to produce as a top 10 tight end pretty easily. Possibly top 7 or 8.
I like that. I like that a lot. And we're going to keep on rolling on. We've got Steve, you went with Hunter Henry after Chris and Brian went with Gesicki and Kmet. Talk to me a little about Hunter Henry.
Yeah, so for me, when it comes to the tight end position, chasing targets over touchdowns, I think that was really appealing for Jonnu last year. Obviously, the Patriots put a big investment into both of them, I think, on day one of free agency, as they were quick to pick everyone and their mother up. But Hunter Henry to me is kind of reminiscent, if I could be anecdotal, of Cam Newton's best years throwing the ball to Greg Olsen. So that's just is kind of the story I tell myself when I'm picking a tight end. But I typically really like the potential target share that Henry could get out of this offense. And I think he's the kind of route runner that runs to Cam Newton's strengths. But seems like Mac Jones may be taking over sooner rather than later. That little highlight or low light from training camp the other day kind of freaked me out a little bit, where Cam Newton just completely missed both guys there. That was pretty disturbing to see. But yeah, so other than me just liking the way Henry plays, the 2-player hives on Twitter that kind of scare me the most are the Jonnu Smith hive and the Brian Edwards hive. So I just want to avoid it altogether, and I'll just stick with Hunter Henry personally there.
Hey, what are you trying to say, bro?
It's a fine pick. I just prefer Henry.
I'm just messing around with you.
Yeah.
And when a guy like Bill Belichick picks up guys like Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry, it always makes, I don't know what to think about what's going to happen. It's probably just not going to be all that great, but sometimes when I see a guy like Hunter Henry, I've always thought that he's a good player. You see what kind of touchdown scorer and what an athlete Jonnu Smith is. I'm so intrigued to see what this Patriots offense. It might be the offense that's most intriguing me to see what it will actually look like, because I think it could look so many. It could look so many different ways, and if they end up making it work, where Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith are on the field and they're both working at an advantage in the middle of the field up the seam, it could be exciting. It really could.
I think it will be. And it's like looking at the way Jonnu Smith plays when he has the ball in his hand. He looks like a running back. So that's the reason why I took it. The reason why Thomas took Gerald Everett there is the reason why I took Jonnu Smith there. It's just because just the pure athleticism.
Absolutely.
You saw when he had the ball in his hand. I think it was like maybe week 1 or week 2 of last year. He took the ball like in the backfield and nobody can catch him. And he's too freaking big to be running that goddamn fast. So I feel as though if they can scheme him in a way and get him an open field, it can be, I hate to use his name, but he was so freaking good. It can be like Aaron Hernandez.
Yeah. Yeah. Just that 2 tight end set, right? With Gronk and Hernandez, a couple of years there where it was just, it was really running well.
It was unstoppable.
Yeah, and I don't know if you'll see it right off the bat, but you might see it sometime this year. And it's, again, I'm really excited to see how this works out, because I just think that the talent for both of these players is too good for them not to use them as pass catchers. But before Hunter Henry goes off, we had Gesicki and Kmet. Chris, talk to me about Gesicki.
Well, when it comes to Mike Gesicki, again, I've heard everybody toss out terms, and respectfully, I chase targets, not touchdowns, or this guy is very athletically gifted. When it comes to Gesicki, I like the idea of him with the same role, if not a little bit more, on a young, kind of upstart Miami Dolphins offense. And if you look at what he did last year, of course, he's realistically, he's logged in our teams and our leagues as a tight end, but he lined up in the slot 75% of his routes last year, and then out wide 19%, was only in line as a tight end, as an extension of the offensive line 11% of the time for the Dolphins. So it's a very fantasy friendly role. It looks like they've given the keys to the castle to Tua, so now it's up to Tua. Can he make it happen? They've surrounded him with a plethora of talent in terms of Waddle now, and Parker, and whoever the heck else is there, Gaskin. So it's a younger offense that can come together, after some good OTAs or some summer camps or some preseason here. He's only 25 years old. He's a little bit more competition for targets, as I said, with the addition of Waddle, but I think his role is cemented. There's nowhere to go but up here. In a way, I don't see his role being diminished enough where I would say, oh my God, I don't want Mike Gesicki on my team. The targets and touchdowns touchdowns, chasing one or the other here. But his role is solidified enough where I could see fringe tight end one production, especially, you know, in like a non-PPR, but who on earth plays standard league scoring anymore? But in a full point or a half PPR, I have no issue with Gesicki in the middle of the second round here.
Sure. I don't know if we said this before the show or on the show, but the saying is 30 yards and a touchdown's pretty much all you need for some of these tight ends.
Especially, I'm predisposed to always thinking in terms of DFS, right? And if I'm going to punt a tight end, you know, 3 receptions for 30 yards is all I want. You're looking at 6 to 7 points, right? And that's cool with me for dirt cheap prices when you punt tight end.
Yeah, and at this point in the draft, I'm not going to look at last year's stats necessarily and say the number of touchdowns they scored last year is the number of touchdowns they're going to score again. But a lot of these players, they're not scoring more than 8 touchdowns in 16 games. So less than half the time they're scoring. So there are going to be weeks that they're going to be good. There are going to be weeks that they're going to not. And yeah, it's really going to depend on the touchdown for a lot of them. And it's really going to depend on the defense that can't defend the tight end or the defense that can. As we get down to these lower levels, we find that a lot of it is just a lot of it's matchup based and how they got schemed. And if that tight end got, if they got down close enough to the end zone and they got stuffed on first and second down and they needed a score and they needed somebody in the end zone, that's sort of how it goes with tight end. So yeah, all of them are fair game. And I do like to, I do think that he'll bounce back a little bit, probably still has a little developing to do. But at the same time, that tight end can always be sort of a security blanket for a young quarterback. And as much as they talk about wanting him to air out the ball, and I think that they will try that as well, there are going to be those times where they just need an easy first down, and Gesicki's going to be there. And I like that.
And as Tua grows, if there is growing pains, which there's sure to be with him and Jalen Waddle, or maybe they get away from Gaskin, you know, a game or two or a series or two, you said it right. A good tight end is the best safety blanket for a young kind of quarterback here. So again, I love Gesicki at 204 there.
That's right. And next down we had Cole Kmet come off. Brian, give me a little bit on Cole Kmet there.
Yeah, sure. I have to admit it's a little bit of a my guy pick. I have him on the fringe of a tight end one, and so I took him here as the 12th tight end.
Get your guy,
He's a guy I've been targeting in Dynasty for a little while. If you look at as the season progressed last year, his snap percentage went way up. He really took over as a tight end one in front of Jimmy Graham. I think Dalton and Fields, however long Dalton starts this year and before Fields takes over, are both upgrades over Trubisky. I see A-Rob getting targets. I see a couple running backs getting a few targets. Darnell Mooney, is probably going to emerge as a bigger threat this year, but it's still, I think, an offense where Kmet can command some targets. And, I just, as long as we're in this, zone of tight ends where we're essentially throwing darts, he's a guy I want to throw a dart at. I'm committed.
Sure. Yeah, I love it. And again, it's that athleticism you're looking for. He's a young guy, still getting his feet wet in the offense, new quarterback. But yeah, I like the profile that Kmet had coming in when he was drafted. And yeah, I think again we're throwing darts, and why not, right? And the last one of this round went to Tom. Was Tom with Gerald Everett? Talk to me a little bit about Gerald Everett moving up to Seattle.
Right. So I see Will Dissly went here at 5'2". I mean, when you get that late, why not? But
yeah,
Russell Wilson's going to throw touchdowns. If there's anything we've learned, he's going to throw touchdowns. And yes, there's Metcalf and Lockett, and Carson might catch a few, but Dissly was a big hype machine not that long ago because Wilson was targeting the tight ends around the goal line. Everett can provide that as well. It's easy to be out on Everett with, kind of being a letdown in LA, but I think with his athleticism, playing with a quarterback like Wilson, kind of the same thing you'll see with all my picks here is I want the athlete that is tied to an offense that can score or will have opportunities from a young quarterback, say Herndon. But Everett athlete. Wilson throwing touchdowns. I mean, 8 touchdowns is totally within his range of outcomes, and at that point in a draft, yeah, I'll take that shot.
Sure.
There's also the familiarity with Waldron and Pete Carroll saying nice things about Everett. There does seem to be beat writers seem intent on making Disley a thing,
right?
And I guess he's gonna, if he's healthy, I guess he's gonna provide some roadblock for Everett to become maybe like a really high value starter. But I think it's pretty clear that they signed Everett to be the primary pass catching tight end.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, they brought in Olsen last year to try and make something happen. Now they're bringing in Everett. They obviously want to upgrade at the tight end position.
Right.
And the other things, Tom, is there are years where, I mean, post Marshawn Lynch, where they were using that tight end as the goal line back, essentially, when they were throwing up jump balls. That was the goal line play. I mean, they saw it didn't work in the Super Bowl. They didn't listen. They kept on going for it. And I guess they decided, we'll just get someone taller and we'll just have them do it this time. And it kind of worked for a little while. So they're no stranger to it. It wouldn't surprise me if you get to see 8
right.
touchdowns out of Everett. I think that's something I could easily see happen.
Yeah,
and I don't think that they're gonna really. I mean, every year we get the let Russ cook, we get Russ fizzling out. It's all gonna be about the chemistry of the team. If it's really gonna depend on who's healthy at the end of the year. It's gonna depend on a lot of things. But Russell Wilson's a great quarterback. He's always gonna be able to keep that team in the game. At the very worst, I think they'd be a mediocre offense. At best, they can be a great offense. And and we don't know what will happen. We never know what will actually happen. And sometimes it's just they make an adjustment. They add a guy like Gerald Everett, and maybe it opens up a lot of things that we didn't see happen last year. From who was it? Olsen there. Olsen at the end of his career. Maybe having a young athletic tight end, right, Mike Everett, might open some other things up that gets DK Metcalf open, or gets, you can find an easy catch down the seam from Everett.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the variance in defense as well. I mean, we don't know how that division is going to play out, but it could be the way teams drafted and went to free agency and are developing. It could be one of the higher scoring divisions, and I just want to attach myself to that at the best value possible. And to me right now, that's Gerald Everett for that team.
Which is funny because I almost feel like it could be one of the highest scoring divisions, and yet all these teams upgrade their defense. Like I feel like they all tried to upgrade their defense in some way again this year. Like with Watt going to Arizona, and now I'm blanking on who I'm talking about. Oh, well, just forget it. It's fine.
Watt might have went to Arizona, but now Chandler Jones isn't showing up. So who knows what happens.
That's true too.
So again, there's so much variance with defense. I'm just counting on that offense. All the offenses in that division going wild.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We're having a great time here on Primetime Mock. Guys, we're getting to the very tail end of our draft. Tom's got his last one, and then Phil's gonna wrap it up for us at 40. Let's just do it's okay. Don't worry about it. Let's just do a quick hit on your last 3. That if you got 2, that's great. If you've got 1, that's fine too. And just we don't have to go too long on those 4th and 5th round guys if you don't want to. Give me those last couple, and we'll roll from there. Let's start. You know what, Phil? You just wrapped yours up. Let's go with you and go backwards here. You ended up with the last pick in the linear draft, so you got the toughest time here. So let's hear from you.
Yeah. So for the 3rd round, I went with Dawson Knox. It just seems like everybody keeps saying that Buffalo needs a tight end, and if you ask me, he actually is producing okay with that team. So when the red zone, they always say they need a running back for the red zone, but their running back is Josh Allen. But when he goes and does play action fakes, the first person he's looking for is Dawson Knox, and he's scoring touchdowns. He scored a touchdown in the playoffs this year. He scored a touchdown in the playoffs last year. And so he's continuing to look for him. This is his third year, so I think this might be his breakout year. The fourth round, I went with Jared Cook. It was just a safe pick for Justin Herbert. He needs just a vet guy, tall, tight end to look for down the field. And he actually still looks, even though he is old as hell, he still looks productive in New Orleans. So he's still catching the ball. And he's still looking good while doing it. And the last round, I went with Harrison Bryant, which I didn't think he would be there at this point. Cleveland Browns, they do a lot of bootlegs with Baker Mayfield just to, I guess, hide his deficiencies and just make him look good at what he does best, which he is accurate. But they need a tight end, and Njoku just hasn't been it. I just don't understand that at all. And they do have Hooper, but they also do run a lot of two tight end sets. So they could be looking for him in the red zone. So I like that pick at the very, very end of this draft.
Yeah, I will say Cook is a pretty nice value there. I mean, again, you might not feel great about him going into your first week of fantasy, but I think he's definitely probably got that locked down for the first 4 to 6 weeks of the season, unless he goes down or something like that. He's probably safe there for you. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Especially if you're in a dynasty league where you need to have a few, or you've got a best ball league that you've got to have a little bit of a committee going for your tight ends. I think Jared Cook's a nice safe pick for you.
Yeah,
all right.
For sure. And nobody wants Jared Cook to be a thing.
No, he's gonna be.
But he's had his time.
No, it's not sexy. It's like watching the 2010 Spurs. It's not, they're not a sexy team, but they play
fundamentally
well.
sound.
Especially Parham fans, though. Especially Donald Parham fans. Like that's like it's like the worst nightmare.
Yes. Exactly.
Are there any Donald Parham fans? I like ham, but
there are
not
several.
Parham.
There are several, and they're all very devastated by Jared Cook being on the team.
I love the XFL. Okay, I love the XFL.
Me too.
Parham's season was great for like 4 days while it lasted.
Yep.
It was. If only the Chargers would listen to fantasy Twitter instead of their own analytics team.
I know,
guys. Pour one out for Donald Parham tonight. All right, I guess
it's not over. It's not. We're not pouring anything out. Donald Parham's going to be a thing. We just have to be patient.
I saw somebody on Twitter said that he should get traded to Jacksonville, and then they can have their big guy in the middle. And I'm like, that's sexy.
They've already got a tight end. His name is Tebow.
Right.
Even Arizona.
That's why I didn't see him get drafted.
He definitely
She's my post-draft sleeper.
The only thing is if Parham goes to Jacksonville, then he's gonna have to compete with Colin Johnson, and I don't think he's gonna win that competition because Colin Johnson is the 101.
No.
But no, but I think Arizona would be a sexy fit too, and I think that they should either trade him or cut him so they can go be special somewhere else.
Please.
Yeah. All right, Tom, give me your back three here, or your last three.
So I went with the former tight end hype machine in Herndon. I think he's a good player. I'm giving him the Gase effect, and I think that a young quarterback, Wilson, he could end up hyper targeting a guy like Herndon in the middle, and he might be able to do enough to not make you want to puke every week. With Dan Arnold, it's kind of another Jets tie. I mean, Sam Darnold did help make Ryan Griffin streamable, 2 years back. So he has been known to target the tight end a little bit, and he's athletic. He's a freak. He can line up multiple places. They gave him decent money. I think it was 2 years, $6 million in Carolina. So trust the offense, trust the team there. And Thad Moss is a heart pick. I mean, he has the pedigree, he has the name, and a wide open tight end room. And I think Drew Sample sucks. So I think he's got a real. I think he has a shot to be on the roster, and when you get to that spot at tight end, that's all you're hoping for.
He had Drew Sample had like one nice game when Uzama went down, I think last year, and he had a touchdown, or he had a pretty nice game for it, and I picked him up, and I think he scored like one catch for like the next 4 weeks.
Raise your hand if you were personally victimized by Drew Sample.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
Yes.
Uh,
I'm
100%.
positive.
It's a therapy group here, guys. We're all.
I sold him in every league I had after that game, and I just took whatever I could.
Oh, that
And,
was well. Good for you there.
It's Thaddeus Moss season now, baby.
I love it, and I do. As much as I feel like I'm willing to get hurt again on Chris Herndon every year. I'm not going to be the one who's if he comes up with an injury in the first in the first few weeks of training camp, I'm totally out. But just every year, it's like he falls to this level of value. It's like it's a tight end and it's a lottery ticket, and they've got a decent matchup, so we go for it. It just always ends up being that.
It's one of those things where he showed he could play a couple years ago, then he got hurt, then he was healthy, then like Gase was mad at him, and then they grounded him, and then they benched him, but he was healthy, so he was going to play. And then last year, the whole team gave up because they just didn't want to play anymore. So again, you just gotta hope. I'm hoping.
You have to put a tinfoil hat to make that sound the way you want it to sound. But yeah, I kind of agree with you.
I will create the narrative.
All right, Steve, give me your back three in the draft.
All right, so at 3-6, I went with Ferkser. I basically can justify that by thinking he's just the next man up in that Tennessee offense after Jonnu signed elsewhere. Obviously now Julio Jones has come aboard, so that perhaps can hurt his target share, but I just really like that offense, even though the offensive coordinator, Arthur Smith, is now in Atlanta. I just really like what Mike Vrabel has done, and with Tannehill as well. I feel like at this point, for a late round target or a $1 player in an auction, like I feel like you could do much worse. And as far as Gronkowski goes, he signed on for one more year. He does have that connection with Tom Brady, even though he is the oldest of the bunch there. But I just feel like, again, at that cost, I'll just try to flip him to someone via trade in this case. Just kind of take like what I think would be like the best on the board, except for maybe Jared Cook, but either way. Then with Noah Gray, he's someone who I'm targeting in every startup that I've done so far this spring and summer. If our, common prince in Travis Kelce happens to go down, I think he could step in nicely. So at this point, I just was looking for the best possible quarterback as a tight end handcuff at this point. And Kelce did have a lot of nice things to say about Gray. I believe it was earlier in the week or maybe late last week. So that is good enough for me at this point of the draft. So
yeah. We had a blurb the other day on NBC Sports Edge where the beat writer for The Athletic was saying that Kansas City is going to use a lot more 2 tight end sets this year, and because they're looking for that third option, and they've given up on Hardman as that third option, so they're going to look to more intermediate pass catchers, specifically Gray and CEH.
Yeah, Gray is a stud, in my opinion. When I did my film study on him, and it was weird because he kind of slightly reminds me of what Kelce can do. So, like you said, if Kelce does go down, I think he can just fit right in there and take right over, or retirement.
They're talking about him running way more 2 tight end sets. Like they're gonna play him out as wide receiver possibly.
Yeah. He could do
All
it.
right, so I can get you guys out of here, and we don't have to commiserate over the back end of these tight end draft for over an hour. Let's go with Brian. Brian, give yourself a highlight of the highlight of your back three, and then just give me a couple words on the other 2.
Sure. So I'm gonna say highlight probably my cutest, spiciest pick, and that's Kylan Granson. Doyle, Cox, Trey Burton, they're not really, I think, doing it well. And I think he's a guy who can walk into tight end 1 role with Wentz there. Ingram was just a settle pick. I was hoping Troutman or Hooper would drop to me there. Brevin Jordan can walk into some targets on Houston. And I got sniped with Yeboah there. So he was my backup plan.
I'd go right into it, Chris. Tell me about yours.
I'm going to keep it short and sweet. What I have to say is very elementary. If you like to stream tight ends, Austin Hooper is the poster boy. I've made no bones about, waiting on a tight end all the time. And again, I mentioned DFS a few times here. He is the quintessential punt tight end. Hooper here with Odell back. He's going to be a fringe tight end, a low end tight end too. No biggie. I can stream him as I see fit with Kittle and Gesicki there. No big deal. When it comes to Hayden Hurst, I made that decision based on who he is as a man. I love what he's doing with his mental health podcast. Him and his mother have been, going all around kind of, presenting themselves, bringing light to mental health and even addiction in a way here. So I love that about Hayden Hurst. That's really the only reason I selected him. It's just a bonus that Julio is now gone. So he'll find the end zone a few times with Matt Ryan still as the QB there. And then Kenny Wipes, plain and simple, young tight end, hopefully can learn and grow with a young quarterback in Zach Wilson in New York. And that's it for me, guys.
Love it. Thank you, Chris. All right, Chase, go for it.
I structured my entire picking spot over knowing that I could get Hawkinson at 1-3, knowing that I could get Irv Smith Jr. at 2-3, and then knowing that I could get Adam Troutman at 3-3. And he got selected at 3-2. And I was so pissed. So I ended up with Blake Jarwin. I don't even care about him. I just wanted Adam Troutman.
This ain't your home league best ball, Chase.
I know. I'm so pissed. Baby Moreau, Foster Moreau is going to be an absolute monster in this league. Eventually, this year, should see a little bit more opportunity. If anything happens to Waller, it's going to be wheels up. But the one guy that I want to talk about is Pat Freiermuth, because I believe that Mike Tomlin might put a strict rule on the pass catchers over there for the Steelers as to where if you drop a ball, you're going to get a finger chopped off. And after Ebron dropped like 10 balls this year, Pat Freiermuth is going to have more than enough opportunities because he's going to be all palms at that point. So, yeah, Pat Freiermuth was my 4-3 over there.
Wow, this is breaking news.
I heard things. I talked to the beat reporters.
Yeah, we're gonna see a medieval punishment on Steelers pass catchers.
You should probably put this up on NBC Edge. I'm just saying.
I think I need to go.
To be fair, I think Ebron was all palms beforehand, though.
It's not gonna make much difference, but at this point, it's not they can justify sitting him on the bench.
When he was in Detroit, if I may, real quick, Ebron, the local media hated him. The fans hated him, and now the Pittsburgh fans hate him. The people on Twitter hate him. Nobody likes this guy. And when he was in Detroit, they called Ebron just a construction barrel with hands. He's just, I don't like him either. So, Ebron.
Yeah, they really do. Everybody. I've never seen a beat writer or anybody say anything positive about Eric Ebron.
Because he's always
there was 1 year in Indy, right? There was 1 year in Indy where he had 10 receptions for touchdowns or something.
Right.
And he had a rushing touchdown or two. They loved him then.
Yeah, he had 2 rushing touchdowns in his career, and he did have a season with 13 receiving touchdowns, 14 total.
Yeah, and then he dropped 10 balls in the end zone the next year, and they didn't resign him.
I don't want to talk about it.
Eric Ebron's burner is going to be coming for us. Let's be sure.
He forgot the spider tack on his hands for that one.
All right, Bob. Now that we burned Eric Ebron so much, go ahead and tell us why you picked him.
So, I got him the same reason you guys picked Freiermuth, because the targets are going to be there to the tight end position, and Ebron, you could say he's not good at football, but there's a reason no matter what happens, he finds a team to play for. It's because he's a pro's pro. He's going to know the plays. He knows the NFL better, and he's not a rookie. And rookie tight ends, we know what rookie tight ends do, which is nothing. And I just think Ebron's going to have first dibs, and his Butterfingers are going to find the end zone. He's going to catch a couple passes, and as the 30th tight end off the board, that was pretty safe for me there. I think Troutman was my pick, and I actually have Ebron and Troutman as 12 and 13 on my preseason rankings. For Troutman, we know New Orleans needs some receiving targets. And I got yelled at on Twitter. I'm sure everyone here has been yelled at on Twitter multiple times when I put my tight end rankings out, and someone said, it's a mistake not having Troutman there. And I said, I'll take a look for next year, but I stick by what I had. he really, when I watched him on the screen, just jumped off the screen as someone who has talent, who can get it done. Nick Vannett was brought in, but we know what Nick Vannett is, and that's a good tight end, but a bad fantasy player because he's there to block. So I really like that pick on Troutman. And Disley, I just really dislike Gerald Everett. I agree that they want someone in size. Disley is actually 2 or 3 inches taller and about 30 pounds heavier. He's the big guy, and he's done it before on Seattle. If he's healthy, I think he gets the first look. And, for absolutely free, Will Disley, it has some upside, and I bet there's going to be a lot of guys streaming Disley at some point this season.
Full disclosure, I took Pat Freiermuth right after Eric Ebron because you took Adam Troutman. So, just saying.
Perfect.
And by the way, Adam Troutman was actually number 1 run blocking and pass blocking tight end, I believe, last year. At least run blocking tight end in the NFL last year.
So he's going to be on the field.
Always on the field, always.
Do we worry at all about who the quarterback is with Troutman?
I don't personally.
No.
I love bad quarterbacks with good tight ends.
Fair enough. All right, Denny, last one here. Give us your back 3.
All right. So I have, I'm sorry, I lost the thing. Okay. Back 3, Higbee in the 3rd. Just because I just don't believe they'll have many, anybody else running routes as far as tight ends go. I know that they have that super athletic project tight end that Sean McVay seems, Jacob Harris. There you go. And I guess he could be a thing, but he could be on the field along with Higbee. I think we could see that at some point this year. He's also Harris is super raw, and they're just trying to find ways to get him on the field just because. The analytics say you got to get a guy like that on the field, and he's insanely athletic. So Higbee is just a guy who I think is going to see an uptick in pass routes and targets this year. I got fancy with my 4th round pick. I went with OJ Howard over Gronk, right? Yes, over Gronk. And here's why. The Zoomers don't remember, but last year in week 1, here are the stats for Tampa Bay tight ends. This is before OJ Howard suffered a season-ending injury. OJ Howard drew 6 targets to Gronk's 3. OJ Howard caught a touchdown in that game. Gronk did not. And OJ Howard ran OJ Howard ran 19 pass routes to Gronk's 20. So they were, he was basically used like Cameron Brate was later in the season. Mm-hmm. OJ Howard was Kyle Pitts before Kyle Pitts. Now he was not actually Kyle Pitts, but as far as somebody who is a tight end who jumps off the page athletically and production wise, he was it. Okay, so if he's back to full health, which apparently they're expecting him to be by training camp. I think OJ Howard becomes a really, really interesting pick in even in redraft. I don't know, I don't know if he's like an every week starter in 12-team league, but he's gonna be a thing this year.
I like that a lot, actually. I mean, I have a hard time quitting OJ Howard too, but that draft class, that tight end draft class, seems to be getting hurt a lot with Evan Ingram as well.
Do y'all remember when they tried to force feed Tanner Hudson right after OJ Howard got hurt, following game, and they targeted him 4 times in the first 6 throws?
That was really weird, wasn't it?
It was, fun. And I love Tanner Hudson until that actually happened, and he showed that he didn't belong in the NFL. But God, man, that had my wheels spinning at first. I'm like, dude, this could be it. This could be it. 4 targets, 1 reception, maybe.
Right. I think that. That Gronk was not kidding last year when he said, "I'm here to block." Mm-hmm. He's going to catch touchdowns. We saw him be productive in the postseason. So I'm not saying he's a non-factor. He's definitely a factor. But OJ Howard has very sneaky appeal in what should be a really high-scoring, high-powered Tampa offense.
At this point in his career, I think Gronk is whatever Brady needs him to be. He's there. He's just there as a card in Brady's deck that he can use however he needs. And he knows that he probably can't hold up a whole season if he's playing the full workload that he normally would. But he's going to be there. He's always going to be an option in the end zone. And when a guy like OJ Howard goes down, he can be that star again. He can be that star in the Super Bowl that we saw. But you're right that OJ Howard again is still. I feel like he's that guy. He was drafted to be that guy, and he's at that point where he's out of that first few years of his tight end eligibility in the NFL, and he's hopefully healthy going into the season. Again, if he's not healthy, then jump off. But if he's healthy, I'm gonna take a swipe at that. I'm always gonna take a pick at that.
Yeah, and then finally, I had Zach Ertz with my last pick, and I know that's like the least sexy pick possible. I get it, but it's with an anticipation that Ertz will be traded. Hopefully, and my hope is to Buffalo. That's my hope.
I like that. I like that idea to Buffalo. Although it messes up Dawson Knox for Phil there. It
does. I'm sorry, Phil. Sorry.
And I think I have the most unsexiest pick in the Jared Cook over your Zach.
Oh, you know what? It's neck and neck.
It's about a tie.
It's a toss-up. It's a toss-up, but I have a ton of Zach Ertz in best ball. A ton
you
of Zach
did?
Ertz
Really?
in best ball.
Okay.
Yeah, he's up there like 80% or something, or 60%, somewhere around there.
All right.
We're having a great time here on Primetime Mock. Great draft, everybody. Thank you all for being here. Let's just get everybody's information before we go. Denny, go ahead and tell us where they can find you.
Yeah, I have pieces on NBC Sports Edge up this week. Cowboys fantasy preview. I'm going to have a kicker piece. Don't worry. I know everybody is fretting about there's not enough kicker content out there. I'm gonna fill that gap. And and then listen to a good football show, which airs on Mondays and Thursdays. It actually now airs live on the YouTube if you would like to watch it that way. There you go.
And you know what? If you don't hate yourself too much going through this 40-round tight end draft, we do have a kicker DST draft coming up here in a few weeks. So if you want to come on back for that, we're happy to have you.
Pennsylvania.
All right, Bob from I-80 Sports, go ahead.
Hey, I'm Bob. We are running I-80 Sports. I'm the producer over there. We cover not only football but Major League Soccer. We're one of the biggest Major League Soccer that covers the whole league out there. We give predictions every week. I write an article, and I have 7 straight weeks in the green. So this is week 8. Hopefully I can bring home the money again this week, but you can go to idsports.com, youtube.com/idsports. We're on all major podcast networks. And thank you for having me, and it was great being with everyone.
Absolutely, man. I'm happy to have you on. And again, anybody who's happy to come, who wants to come back, Bob, you want to come back? We're happy to have you.
Not for kickers. I'm not.
Oh yeah, it's all right. We've got other ones too, but I like to torture some people every once in a while with these drafts. But you guys were good sports tonight here. All right, Chase Vernon, go ahead.
I feel like I'm good on DSTs. Like I love writing about DSTs. So I'm going to read Denny's article, and I'd be more than happy to come on for that draft because I feel like I'll know everything by that point. But now you guys can go find me at FFO Intervention over there on Twitter. Join our circle _ as well. You guys can go find our content at fantasyintervention.com, youtube.com/fantasyintervention. Oh, and at SomeYards, of course, on Twitter. Let me know if y'all are interested in helping out with, some yards better than no yards, of course. And then, we're pretty much everywhere. Like fantasy football discussion on Facebook. We have over 25,000 active members daily. So if you're on Facebook, go check that out. Yeah. Appreciate you having me on.
Of course. And just because you glitched there during your Twitter handle, it's at FF_intervention.
Thanks, man. Appreciate that.
Of course. Always looking out for you, Chase. Just like you were looking out for me. You got Tom in here. Let's go over to Tom real quick. Tom Tipple.
Yeah, man. You can find me at Thomas Tipple FF on the Bird app. You can catch me Monday at the fantasy walkabout with me and my mate across the other side of the planet over there in Australia. And you can find me at the Full Tilt Dynasty podcast on Friday, broadcasting on the Tube of You and the Dynasty Vipers network. So you can catch me over there. Hope to see everyone. I also want to give a shout out to the MLS down there. I was in Toronto for Schweinsteiger's first game. So, go TFC.
All right. Chris Robin, go ahead. Give us your info.
Sure, I'm Chris, aka at Detroit Beastie. My top 250 rankings are out now on Fantasy Pros, and that includes my top 100 IDP ranks as well. Rookies included, as I've said. You can find bottom of the barrel, my big DFS article on the Undroppables during the, that's in season, but right now kind of laying low. It seems like the dead zone of fantasy football right now. And if you'd have me, I'd love to come back for kickers and DSTs.
Man, we have so many kicker.
It's going to be it'll be a full-on reunion. I guess you all are just going to have to come back now. Or
That's right. I was under the impression that no one liked kickers, but I'm glad we have a good group here.
I guess the band back together. What the heck?
I guess now everybody's been on the bandwagon of kicking kickers out of the league. I guess we're thirsty for it now. The Scott Fishbowl's got him in there now, and everybody's thirsty for kickers now.
That's right.
Denny's always had that thirst, though. We know that.
I have. It is never quenched.
All right, and we got Brian Ford. Brian Ford, tell us where we can find you.
First of all, thanks for having me on. It was a lot of fun. If you start these at 9 and not 8, like we did tonight, I can come for more of them for sure. You can find me at ffjunkie_ on Twitter, and there you'll find all the stuff that I'm connected to: Dynasty Pros, Fantasy in Frames, the Fourth in Frames podcast, out of the Fantasy in Frames family, and of course my new podcast, Dynasty Fever, at Dynasty Fever Pod on Twitter. We're recording episode 3 tomorrow. Thanks.
I love it. All right, Steve, go for it.
I write articles for Dynasty Pros Fantasy Football. Got a few things in the works. You can find me on Twitter at Fantasy Ladder. The articles I've coming out, I've one covering auction drafting and strategies, kind of a beginner's guide to it. Very passionate about that kind of draft. And you can look for me on the True North Fantasy Football podcast, the Gold Jackets podcast. We just recorded that on Tuesday night, part of their how-to series I was on to explain how to auction draft. So you can keep an eye out for my article and check that out on YouTube, or that'll be up on Apple Podcasts in the next few days.
Thanks so much for coming, Steve.
Thank you.
All right. And last but not least, we got Phil Simmons. Go for it, Phil.
Hey, okay. My name is Phil. You can find me on Twitter at FFPorkman. We have Dynasty Rewind podcast on Tuesday nights. I want you guys to join if you can, or tell other people. We have a Patreon / Dynasty Rewind. We've got a bomb new Notion thing that we're doing now. So we got all our rankings, Devy rankings, rookie rankings, and it's going to be best ball rankings on there as well. So, hey, join. You got the group me chat. We talk. You ask questions all day. They blowing up my phone while I'm working, but I get back to you when I'm done. So, yeah. And if you guys ever need any guest hosts, and you just hit up my DMs, I'm always there.
That's what I do. All of you got real open DMs for a stranger, so I'm in them. You find me in them. That's why
I was like, I hit you up the other day, and I'm like, hey, what's going on?
That's right. Ready. Yeah. No, I appreciate you, Phil, coming back 2 in a row. That's great of you. I appreciate everybody coming on, and we have a great time on these. So, if you're out there and you want to come join the party, come join us every week. We've got we just ended up finishing tight end, so that's the end of our positional shows for a little bit until that kicker DST show comes up. I think it's at the end of July. But we're going to be going into just straight redraft for the next few weeks, and I'm excited to get into it. We got a super flex show, we got a regular show, we've got a couple going through, and I'm really excited for the next couple weeks. I hope you are too, and come see us next week. Have a great night, everybody.